Wait a minute. How the CIA uses pigeon to spy. I knew it wasn't crazy. I knew the government was watching always, dude. These birds, every single time I see them staring at me, I knew it. Dude, ever since.
This pigeon is a CIA spy. It's wearing a tiny high-tech camera, and it's about to gather intelligence on Soviet nuclear submarines.
Wait, what?
This is a dolphin. Right now, it's being trained to carry bombs and attach them to enemy vessels, possibly miniaturized nuclear bombs. This raven isn't just flying around, it's on a mission. Currently, it's heading towards the hotel room of a KGB agent to plant a bug there.
I'ma go to bed now to have a great stream.
Dude. Was? What? Wait, sorry. Let's restart. What the f is going on? Hi, Karigo. What is going on?
This pigeon is a CIA spy. It's wearing a tiny high-tech camera, and it's about to gather intelligence on Soviet nuclear submarines.
Soviet?
This is a dolphin. Right now, it's being trained to carry bombs and attach them to enemy vessels.
No shot. F off. There's no way they were successfully able to do this. I don't believe you.
Possibly miniaturized nuclear bombs. This raven isn't just flying around. It's on a mission. Currently, it's heading
I
towards
believe this. Ravens are so smart.
the hotel room of a KGB agent to plant a bug there.
Wow.
And this cat has been sent to spy on a Chinese diplomat.
What is he gonna do? Tell me what he said? What the f is going
It had a
on?
microphone surgically implanted in its ear.
Yes! What?
And there's an antenna in its tail. This all sounds like science fiction.
What? Is it no shot, dude? Morletez! Dude! Morletez! Thank you for the prime. Welcome in. Oh, dude,
Animal
what?
spies are very real. Their stories have long been shrouded in secrecy, myths, and legends. But in 2019, the CIA released a large trove of previously classified documents. They
Guys, I
give
have
us
a question. How come they would release classified documents? Like, is there like a date where it becomes too old that they have to release it or something? Why do they always have to release documents? Why can't they just like keep it secret till it dies or something? Date of expiry, they're not relevant anymore. They do it to flex, required by law. Interesting. That's so interesting.
glimpse into how the CIA tries to weaponize animals. Today, we will look at the 4 most spectacular projects.
How come there's no dogs in this one? That's actually surprising, no? I feel like dogs would be #1 when it comes. Oh, because it would be, you know, not every country has stray dogs.
They reveal a story of Cold War paranoia, unchecked hubris, absurd waste, spectacular
obvious.
failures, and wild ideas that were taken too far.
Like, oh, suspicious. A big dog just sat beside me, and I'm speaking about some warfare and that will help our country win the war. Yeah, and there's a dog sitting beside me. Suspicious. Weird. The dog is just staring at me. But when a cat stares at you, another cat staring at me, cute. Who cares, right?
This video is based on declassified CIA documents. Of course, the CIA wants to present itself in a certain light, and it's careful about what it reveals. Some parts are heavily redacted, and sometimes other sources give conflicting information. We can only present what we know, and if we don't know something, we'll be transparent about it. As always, you can find our sources in the description. Humans weaponize—
Dude, you know what? My cat is so f***ing stupid. Like, actually, Agatha. Do you guys remember Agatha? Bro, Agatha, I'll be like, Agatha. And then Agatha is just staring out in the wild. Like, I would be holding her, and then she's just like, what is that emote? Aga, but like, it's staring, like, you know, opposite direction. That's Agatha. I love Agatha, dude. She's so cute. Agatha is, yeah, that's the one, dude. That's actually Agatha. Agatha literally like looks the other way and She's like, she can't really stare. Okay, guys, look. I'm not kidding, by the way. Agatha is actually like, look at her. I don't know why she looks like that. She's so cute, dude. She's so cute. I love her so much. She's so cute, dude. But like, yeah, she can look straight, but sometimes she just doesn't look straight sometimes. I love her so much. She's just making biscuits and shit. Oh my god, dude. She's interesting. She's super interesting. Okay, let's continue on.
Animals to make use of special capabilities.
I feel like if Agatha was a spy, I would believe it.
They themselves lack. A dog's sense of smell is up to 10,000 times stronger than ours. It's perfect for sniffing out illegal drugs. To cross the Alps and invade Italy, the Carthaginian general Hannibal used war elephants. During World War II,
Oh yeah, I completely forgot that elephants were used in war. I'm surprised that elephants didn't like accidentally kill their own like people by accident because of how they would get scared, walk back, boom, stepped on somebody, accidental.
the Polish army deployed a brown bear named Wojciech
Oh my
to the
god.
Italian front.
Oh, they did? They did? Oh, they did. Oh. Well.
In Iraq,
More
the US military worked
excessive.
with dolphins, putting their unparalleled echolocation
Thank
skills
you.
to use detecting underwater mines. And some work with animals is veiled in secrecy. By their nature, it's hard to tell exactly how far these programs have progressed. In 2019, a beluga whale
Do you
was
guys not know that? Dude, that's a true story.
discovered in Norwegian waters wearing a camera harness. A tag identified it as belonging to St. Petersburg, Russia. It was quickly accused of being a spy. In 2007, Iran apprehended 14 squirrels near a nuclear...
Squirrels! I knew it. I knew those were like up to no good, those squirrels.
enrichment plant. The animals were arrested as spies. In 2018, a senior
Arrested as spies? Wait, what? The squirrels were arrested as spies?
In
Wait,
2007, Iran apprehended 14 squirrels near a nuclear enrichment plant. The animals were arrested as spies.
what is going on in the world? Whoa! What is going on?
Journalists that Western nuclear spies have been using lizards to collect information about Iran's nuclear program. Animals have an inherent advantage that human spies lack. People simply don't notice them. Unlike human agents or advanced technology like drones, animals can typically pass undetected, even in secure areas. But there's a problem. Animals are not natural spies. They need
We
training.
love you, Deme.
During the Cold War, the CIA faced a mighty adversary, the Soviet Union. In trying to claim the upper hand, the agency explored all sorts of methods, some of them highly unorthodox.
Guys, if you had to pick an animal to like make them a like spy and which animal would you pick? I would pick a bird. It's just the easiest one. Easiest, like, okay, you go this place and you listen and come back. An owl. Perry the platypus.
Psychedelic drugs, mind control, silent killer weapons, stealing Russian submarines, and, of course, animal agents.
I feel like ravens are perfect. Perfect. They're so smart. They're easy to train. Easy to like the moment that, dude, ravens are perfect.
In the mid-1960s, the CIA launched Project Axiolite. The goal was to provide reliable trained avian vehicles for emplacement, transport, and/or recovery of reconnaissance
Why do I
surveillance
see
sensors
feet in the
to meet
chat?
operational
A
requirements as
bear.
defined by the sponsors. In other words, the CIA was training birds to transport things like recording devices. But which birds were spy material? There were several candidates, some stronger than others. The cockatoo seemed to be a wild card.
That is insane. If I saw a cockatoo in the wild, I would stare the out of it. I would be like staring. I'll be like, dude, why is there this random ass bird in here? You know, that's all. Dude, that's so obvious. It depends on the country. Oh, true.
One memo states, "We are completely in the dark as to what the possibilities are in regard to this critter." There were high hopes for the hawks. Brandy and GB are two of the program's hawks. They were especially reliable and determined. They could locate specific objects or features in strange territory.
Sergey,
They
thank
could carry
you.
a 13-ounce package for more than a mile. They could even remove objects from a harness they themselves were wearing. but in general, they were not considered strong flyers. Horned owls respond to a high-frequency whistle
The person that said an owl.
and can be recalled by trainers, even in extreme low-light situations. But in daylight, their ability to discern objects is much worse than that of other birds.
Oh.
As time progresses,
Cons and pros and cons.
one unlikely candidate stands out. Doodah, a raven.
Doodah. Do.
We now know that ravens are
I'm not gonna lie, ravens have aura. Ravens, I'm not gonna lie, dude. Aura. Ravens are so cool.
extremely intelligent birds. They have excellent memories, can plan for the future, and are capable of using tools and solving
The
puzzles.
fact that you can make it train to like steal people's money and shit. Wow.
Researchers have found that 4-month-old ravens can perform certain cognitive tasks, as well as adult-grade apes.
No.
CIA documents usually stick to dry facts, but Doodah was Project Axiolite's superstar.
Doodah.
In one memo, an agent dedicates a whole page to the saga of Doodah.
Doodah. The saga of Doodah.
Project
What the
Axiolite began at a Navy facility at San Clemente Island, off the coast of California. There, the CIA tested the strength of various birds. Their task, fly from the island to a boat and back. This might sound easy, but the distance was challenging, and the winds could be strong. Most birds could manage to fly between 50 yards and 1.5 miles. Doodah, meanwhile, flew 3.5 miles.
Wow, Doodah is crazy.
A few months later, he was almost doubling that distance. He was also
He's
problem-solving.
him.
In every session, he would figure out exactly the right altitude he needed to fly for the unique wind conditions. Aggressive native birds posed a major threat to the CIA trainees. Wild gulls and ravens soon figured out their training schedule. Once they knew when the CIA birds would show up, they would lie in wait and then attack.
No!
But Doodah solved this problem too. To
Wait.
avoid the gulls, he'd keep
He's solving issues? What the f?
to a higher altitude and outfly them. The wild ravens were another matter. They would hide behind the bluffs, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Doodah's
Dude, he's actually a spy agent! What is going on?
solution was to engage in brief dogfights with the ravens, while leading them further and further from shore. After about a mile, they would give up and turn back. Ravens' intelligence made them good at more than flying. According to Navy animal
Dude.
trainer Bob Bailey, they could be taught to recognize specific desks, open drawers,
Off! Off!
and carry heavy objects like file folders. The CIA started training ravens like Doodah extensively, and eventually used them in the field. According to the CIA documents, this is how they did it.
How? I need
A
to
CIA agent wants to record a secret conversation between enemy agents.
know.
He knows where and when it's taking place,
Okay.
down to the building and the exact room. Now he needs to get a recording device close to the conversation as inconspicuously as possible. To do this, he goes to a nearby building with a view of the targeted location, no more than 300 feet away. With him, he has a trained raven. At the appropriate time, he aims a tiny flashing laser at the window ledge outside the room where the conversation is taking place. Then he releases the raven from its cage. The bird takes a disguised listening device in its beak and flies to the spot indicated by the laser to plant the equipment. The agent then turns on a special desk lamp to signal to the raven that it's time to return. Later on, the raven is sent to retrieve the recording device by the same method. At least, this is how it's described in the document.
Okay,
Operator's Manual.
okay. Laser, boom, point, easy, go here, plant it here. Okay, that's okay. I feel like a laser would be okay. A laser would be so obvious, no? Like, okay, I'm looking outside, I'm looking at the window. I'm suddenly seeing a red flashing dot. Like, what?
Avian delivery system. In real life, things didn't go as smoothly. When ravens were molting, they couldn't fly comfortably. One put the listening device on the
Ew, they what?
wrong windowsill, and when a device made it to the right windowsill, the microphone picked up so much ambient noise, the recording was useless. The document suggests that this whole technique was only used a single time, and the attempt seems to have been unsuccessful.
Oh.
Unfortunately, Doodah's luck eventually ran out. One day he was attacked by a pair of wild ravens he'd fought many times before. All 3 birds disappeared from sight, and Doodah never returned. He was presumed killed in action.
No.
The saga of Doodah mourns his loss. He was in a class by himself, writes his trainer. He had a very large bag of tricks and was loved by all. In view of these talents, I suppose I shouldn't have been too surprised when he so quickly became a star on this project. In spite of our deep sense of loss, writes the anonymous agent, we do understand such tragedies are inevitable. Ravens aren't the only birds the CIA uses as spies. In secret locations across the United States,
He
Project
faked his
Axiolite
death. Wait
was
a
also
minute, wait a
busy training.
minute. Duda finally knew, like, oh, dude, they're just using me. Left the scene. Boom. He's now a free bird. He went rogue.
The humblest of
I
birds
think he went rogue,
into
dude.
covert eyes in the skies.
Pigeons are way too stupid.
It's
There's
September
no way.
1976. Aerial photographs show the Soviets building nuclear submarines in Leningrad. But the CIA needs more information. Spy planes fly tens of thousands of feet above their target, while satellites are restricted to space. From these distances, it's impossible to take detailed
Really?
high-resolution
Pigeons
photos.
are smart? I thought they were like stupid as
Enter
or
pigeons.
something.
A pigeon could fly about 100 feet
morning,
over a target
Madraka.
any time, day or night, and regardless of the weather. Most importantly, no one would notice it, and they could clearly be trained. Pigeons are no strangers to war. During World War II, the British National Pigeon
I
Service
forgot. They were the ones that were like setting up messages and stuff like that, right? I forgot. I think I'm mixing up the birds or something.
would drop cases of the birds over occupied Europe. People would send them back with information about daily life or even military details like troop movements. The key was their unique honing instinct. Anywhere you release a pigeon, it can find its way back home. Even today, this ability still isn't fully understood.
What?
To exploit pigeons' natural talents for aerial photography, the CIA's Office of Research and Development created special 16mm cameras and harnesses for the
Yeah,
birds
I've
to wear.
heard that story. Have you guys heard that story that like we adapted pigeons to be in our like daily like thingies for sending messages and stuff like that, train them to be reliant on us and stuff like that. And then when radios happened, we just abandoned it and they were like lost and stuff and they didn't know how to do anything anymore because they were reliant on humans. That's why they cannot make good nests and stuff like that. Wow. Is that I saw that. I remember that. That's how they became a fly rat.
The harnesses were made of leather and attached to the birds with adjustable Velcro
Dude, that looks like a bird with a bomb.
tabs. They were designed to allow the birds full freedom of movement
Oh, really,
while holding the
Maxine?
camera
That's so
steady
cute.
during flight. The cameras were lightweight and miniaturized. Each had a small battery-powered motor that advanced the film and cocked the shutter. Each camera had its own timer. When it went off, the camera would take pictures for just a few minutes, resulting in 150 to 220 photos. Together, the camera and harness weighed just 39.5 grams.
Wow.
To produce useful images, pigeons needed to fly directly over their target at exactly the right time. But this could be difficult to arrange. Once they were released, the pigeons would fly back home in a more or less direct line. If the target was located on that line, there was a fairly good chance the pigeons would fly over it. But in covert situations, it wasn't always possible to release pigeons in ideal locations. Some areas were restricted, others were too exposed. To get around this problem, CIA handlers tried to teach the birds ABC flight. Point A is the point of release, point B is the target, and point C is the pigeon's home loft. To begin with, temporary targets a short distance away were established at point B. When they flew to these targets, the pigeons were rewarded. Over time, they were conditioned to expect this reward. Next, the reward at point B was eliminated, but to receive a reward at point C, they had to fly over point B first. And that's how they trained a pigeon to move from A to B to C. Once the birds were conditioned, they moved on to longer training flights. Inflatable white radums 20 feet in diameter were used as point B. The CIA trained and tested birds in lofts in Oregon, Virginia, Missouri, and Alaska. Alaska, it was noted, shared certain geographical features with areas of interest in the Soviet Union. The training yielded mixed results. Birds were often lost along the way. Some birds simply flew away. Some were killed by wild birds.
Guys, it's going to be a very dumb question. Could be a dumb question, but I have a question. Why is Alaska American and not Canadian? Like, it would make sense for it to be Canadian, though. Like, I'm surprised that America got that territory. Russia sold it.
On the longer training flights, many birds flew too low along freeways and were hit by cars. Birds sometimes disappeared while wearing the special equipment that had been developed for them. losses were time-consuming and expensive. Each time a bird was lost, a new one had to be purchased and trained. Some of the photos taken were very high quality. Some missed the target entirely. Even when the birds were fully trained, they could be relied on to complete their ABC mission only about 1 out of 4 times. A sea flight still held potential though. If the release point was chosen carefully, with the target area between it and the home loft, CIA analysts felt there was a high probability the birds would fly over the intended target and obtain the high-resolution photos required.
Interesting.
So the CIA knows that the Soviets are building nuclear
crazy.
submarines in the Admiralty and Sudomek shipyards in Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, and it needs high-resolution photos. Time for the pigeons to shine.
Here it is!
An agent will have to release the pigeons with the shipyards between himself and the pigeons' home loft. To do this without being detected will require clandestine release techniques. The documents mention 3 that are considered as options. One is releasing the birds from underneath a large overcoat. The second option is briefcases and shopping bags with trick bottoms. The third option is this Volkswagen Beetle. A hole is cut in the floor. When the car is parked, pigeons are released through the hole. They waddle out from
What?
underneath the car and immediately take flight. The operation is to go ahead by August 1970.
Does that not look more suspicious, or am I tripping?
But here the trail goes cold. It's unclear whether the operation actually ever happened. The documents don't say.
Oh, the documents are like missing. Oh.
While the CIA's birds may have gathered invaluable aerial photo insights, other agents were being trained to sabotage enemy ships. This is James W. Fitzgerald. He's an engineer and physicist. It's 1964,
I've heard his name
and Fitzgerald
before.
has been thinking about dolphins a lot. At a cocktail party, he mentions that he believes the animals could be used in warfare. The person he's talking to happens to be an admiral in the US Navy. He's intrigued enough to introduce Fitzgerald to someone from the CIA. Around the same time, the TV show Flipper debuts. It's about a crime-fighting dolphin.
There is no way they had an idea of using a dolphin just because a fucking show had a dolphin that fight crime. No, no way.
In a marine reserve in the Florida Keys. Like most dolphins, Flipper is smart and friendly to humans, and he responds well to commands. We'll never know whether Fitzgerald and the CIA were inspired by
We're
Flipper,
still using them
but it is
today.
plausible. According to the Washington Post, at this point, the CIA sends Fitzgerald to Florida, where he establishes a small laboratory. The same year, the CIA begins its dolphin program, Project Oxygas.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's Aura Oxygas. Ooh. Guys, I'm part of Project Oxygas. Ooh. That's a good name.
The aim of Project Oxygas is to show that dolphins can be used in attacks against enemy ships. To this end, harnesses and nose cones are created to allow the dolphins to carry items. Someone in the CIA even produces this drawing. The dolphins are happily towing the...
Dude, look at the way they drew the dolphin. It's so cute. They're so rounded. Look at their little eyes.
explosive devices given to them
That's
by their
so
handlers on top of the
cute.
submarine.
And they're holding bombs.
The program quickly passes its first test. It demonstrates that a dolphin can place a simulated explosive device against the propeller of a PT boat anchored in the open sea. In November 1964, the Deputy Assistant Director
Hi,
of the Office
Boosty.
of Research and Development writes that Project Oxygas has progressed more rapidly than we anticipated.
Wait,
It's unclear exactly what sort of simulated explosives these dolphins
wait, what did it say?
see.
Let us leave, like I said, 10 months.
In November 1964, the Deputy Assistant Director of the Office
So
of Research and
how
Development
many
writes that
times
Project
has he
Oxygas
raged today?
0.
has progressed more rapidly than we anticipated.
Progress more rapidly. Wait.
It's unclear exactly what sort of simulated explosives these dolphins were carrying. The sentence that specifies this is partly redacted. The CIA probably planned on using conventional explosives, but if this was the case, why the need for secrecy? A 2021 article in Popular Mechanics suggests a haunting possibility. In 1965, miniaturized nuclear weapons might have seemed achievable in the near future. The magnitude of such an idea would certainly explain the need for continued secrecy. The program's first success unlocks other goals. Trainers explore having dolphins place listening devices on enemy nuclear submarines. The hope is that directly attaching the devices
How the f can you listen outside of how much thick metal? How? There's no way.
will produce high-quality recordings that allow the
How
CIA
the
to
f
better
can they
understand
record
how the
anything
enemy subs
outside
work.
of the ship?
But wild animals are hard to train. One of the dolphin's strengths is how
Vibration.
social they are. They're willing to work, especially as they bond with their trainers. But at some point, this becomes a liability. If the dolphins are performing tasks that please their trainers, then in the field, they'll need extra time to bond with agents before they can be considered reliable. There are also questions about whether dolphins can carry out operations over
Why not just bring those people that train them to the field as well?
reliable. There are also questions about whether dolphins can carry out operations over longer distances. At some point, the CIA seems to realize its limitations in understanding the dolphin's capabilities, and it contacts the Navy's Office of Naval Research to help. In 1967, the program's focus
Hey guys, I'm a dolphin researcher. I love dolphins. CIA comes knocking down the door. Hey, I need you to help me like train dolphins to set up explosives to the enemy line now.
changed to intelligence gathering. The dolphins were to be trained to travel great distances, at least 12 miles. They would retrieve dead drops, items or information undercover agents had left behind in the
Retrieve dead drops. Wow.
water to be picked up. A memo from September 14th that year suggests that oxygas had become a joint program of the CIA and the Department of Defense. The CIA seemed unsure that Project Oxygas would produce actionable results, and the program seemed to be running out of steam. A make-or-break demonstration was scheduled for December. At that time, it would be decided whether Project Oxygas would continue.
Oh no.
The demonstration seems to have been a failure. After that time, there are no further mentions of the program in the CIA documents.
Damn, they messed up.
Surviving drawings and photographs gives us an idea of what Project Oxygas might have looked like. Glimpses of Project Kesho are far more rare. But between the redactions, a hazy picture
Here it
emerges
is.
of likely the oddest creature the CIA ever created.
The cat.
This is Acoustikitty. Acoustikitty is the legendary project of
Taza.
Project Ketchel, the CIA's dog and cat program. Of all the CIA's animal projects, Acoustikitty might have been the most controversial and the hardest to corroborate, depending
Oh no, this is gonna make me annoyed.
on who you
I
believe.
know it.
The saga of Acoustikitty goes in fundamentally different directions. Here's the CIA story. In 1964,
Here is the CIA story. Oh no. Who the f trusts them anyway?
the agency wanted to be able to explore conversations held out in the open. Think two Soviet agents having a conversation in a public park. That required getting close and focusing in on the conversation without attracting attention. The solution is cats, who can often
Jordy,
prowl
think it's
around
at
without
10
people ever
months.
noticing them. A microphone is surgically placed inside a cat's ear canal. A transmitter is placed underneath a bunch of loose skin, and an antenna is woven into its fur.
Woven? Oh,
The whole procedure is low risk, humane, and minimally invasive.
poor kitty though.
But the cat is still a cat. It can be trained only so far. Eventually, it will do what it wants.
I do what I want. Make 2-3 projects in 3 months.
Acoustikitty was never deployed in the field, and the listening devices were carefully removed from its body. But Victor Marchetti, who was special assistant to the CIA's deputy director in the 1960s, tells a very different story. Here's his version. It's sometime in the 1960s. The CIA puts a Chinese
Oh no, here's a different story. Wait, by who? By who?
time in the 19 director in the 1960s tells a very different story.
Oh no.
Here's his version. It's sometime in the 1960s. The CIA puts a Chinese diplomat in France under surveillance. But their bugs don't just pick up his conversations. They record all the noise in the room, including the squeaking of the couch. Individual voices are inaudible. This is characteristic of the microphones of the day, which tend to record everything around them indiscriminately. The anatomy of ears, on the other hand, allows us to focus on certain sounds and exclude others. This and your brain's auditory processing abilities are why you can have a
Okay.
conversation at a noisy party without being overwhelmed by every sound.
Oh, well, not me. I get overwhelmed and I would be like, hey, can we move to something more quiet? Because I can't handle the sound.
When Acoustic Kitty turned its head, it would direct
Autism, yeah. Okay.
the microphone inside its ear. According to Marchetti, to implant the equipment, they slit the cat open, put batteries in him, wired him up, including putting a power pack in his abdomen.
No!
The tail was used as an antenna. They made a monstrosity. To focus on a single conversation, Acoustic Kitty would need to be trained. His handlers found that hunger or sexual arousal would cause him to simply lose interest and wander off.
Sexual arousal. Dude, guys, I just haven't had sex in a while. I don't want to listen to you.
So they attached wires to his brain to monitor and neutralize those impulses. Marchetti claims the CIA did attempt to use Acoustic Kitty in the field. The cat was then put on a test, sent across the street to eavesdrop on a conversation, being monitored by a van loaded with equipment.
Too horny to care.
And as this poor little monstrosity waddled across the street, a taxicab came down and ran over it.
No!
So it was $25 million down the drain. $25 million was a lot of money then. The CIA disputes all this. On its website, it claims that Marchetti's comments were meant to be a joke, and the unclassified documents are no help. The single document about Acoustic Kitty is heavily redacted.
Redacted. Sus.
The CIA didn't just train and transform animals, it also recreated them. This looks like a dragonfly, but look closer, it's a machine, the Insectothopter. The
What the f-
CIA created this tiny gas-powered listening device back in the 70s. It contains a microphone, and it can flap its wings rapidly and fly just over 600 feet in a minute, guided
So
by a laser beam.
but like, it looks
A remarkable
like a fly.
technical achievement, with some serious limitations. Even a light breeze can throw it off course immediately.
So it's useless. Okay, thanks.
It was never used operationally. In a memo, the CIA's Deputy Director of Research and Development wrote that unfocused experimentation in the animal programs represented the worst kind of waste in terms of manpower and money. The unclassified documents often suggest that the CIA was simply exploring what animals could do without having any real objective in mind. And the results are somewhat disappointing. Ravens were trained for years just to be killed by wild birds. Pigeons randomly disappeared with gear worth thousands of dollars. And depending on who you believe, an expensive cyborg cat was at best useless in the field, and at worst immediately hit by a car. The declassified documents suggest that by the mid-1970s, the animal projects had fizzled out. Despite this disappointment, the quest to weaponize animals continues. The United States Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as DARPA, has been running programs
Derpa.
aimed at controlling insects for espionage. In 2012, a team at MIT announced that it had developed a neural probe that plugged into moths' nervous systems,
No!
allowing for their flight to be controlled. Engineers at the University of Washington have implanted moths' antenna into the Smellithopter, a drone that can actually pick up smells. And in 2018, DARPA announced the Persistent Aquatic Living Sensors program. The program explored the possibility of using aquatic creatures as living alarm systems.
What?
That includes bioluminescent bacteria, which light up when disturbed by aquatic intruders. Another option was to study the sounds produced by snapping shrimp and Goliath grouper. In the case of the shrimp, disturbances in the audio could even indicate the size and shape of an intruder. It remains to be seen whether DARPA or the CIA can harness the natural world for intelligence purposes, or whether wilderness will remain just that. Maybe someday we'll discover whether any real success stories lie within all those redactions.
Thank God, like, cats is like doing what they want. Sheesh, what a video. That was so interesting, no? Holy.